Is Costa Rica making expats leave the country? And does Costa Rica have an ulterior motive? Well, what's the reason for this mass exodus of expats leaving Costa Rica? We're going to find out that and much more in just a few minutes. But first, I need to tell you about this awesome place who has given us an opportunity to actually host our live at their restaurant. And I want you to meet the man, because Rudy's restaurant called Torre. It is beautiful. It's got a phenomenal view. And you know, I got to kind of recant because some time back I did a video and I bragged about how this is one of our favorite restaurants, but I said it was kind of the typical restaurant bar. However, there's a new owner in town, and Rudy here took over some time back, and he took it from typical to, now this is an experience. When you come here, hey, not only do you have this phenomenal view, but you've got great service, you've got food that has flavor. I'm talking about, wow, the meal we had today was phenomenal. But Rudy, I've been bragging about your place, and now you've been owner of this restaurant for how long now?
About 7 months.
About 7 months. Now, Rudy, you've done some phenomenal upgrades and changes in that short 7 months. But I've been bragging and I've been telling everybody, look, when you come to Paris Celadon, you need to visit Rudy. But Rudy also has a pretty good incentive for you to try out his restaurant. So what incentive? When people come down here and they say, hey, Rudy, or they tell your staff, Alan and Rebecca from YouTube sent us here, what deal do they have?
Well, it's like what you said. I mean, great service, awesome food, beautiful view. Okay, we're gonna offer you the first drink of your first time visitors on me, on the house, okay? Anything you want to drink, whether it is a beer or juice or any kind of liquor. So it'll be on me, the first round.
Now that's pretty awesome and a fairly darn good incentive in my opinion. So they're going to get their first drink free for your first time visit. You're going to find out how awesome it is, and you're going to be coming back again and again.
Well, hopefully that's the case. Like you said, I'm trying to do my best. Everything, you know, every week I try to do something new, whether it's with the menu or infrastructure. I try to do the best that I can, and I promise you, you won't forget that experience. I guarantee that you'll be really pleased, and well, hopefully you'll visit us.
Thank you, Rudy.
Hey, thank you for having me here. Okay.
Fantastic.
Enjoy.
All right. Fantastic. I greatly appreciate it. And let's give me just a moment. Rudy, thank you so very much for allowing us to be here. And I'm excited to share with you today what is about to happen. But first, let me get our...
We're getting into position.
Yes, first apple juice free. Now that's a pretty awesome deal. Okay, let me adjust our camera. And let me see here. It looks like we're pretty good.
Put it down a little bit. There you go.
All right, welcome everybody. And back to our story here.
It's a windy day in Costa Rica.
All right, for everybody, if this is your first time here, well, I'm Alan, and this is my beautiful co-host and wife, Rebecca. And so if this is your first time here, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be alerted of what's coming up next, because we've got some pretty amazing things to share with you today. Things that, in my opinion, are extremely, extremely important.
Yes, and before we get started, can somebody let us know if you can hear us okay? We have a little bit of background noise with the highway, so.
All right, so yeah, let us know. I'm seeing a lot of, hey, welcome, and look, hey, fantastic. John Way says all things are good. Fantastic. All right, and look, like someone said, hey, coming down here to get your first apple juice free, it doesn't get much better than that, okay? So, all right, first off, why in the world is Costa Rica forcing expats to leave the country? Well, first off, this is what we need to know. It's not every expat has to leave. If you are not a legal resident, not a temporary resident, in other words, you're here on vacation, you are the perpetual tourist, you have to leave. Now, here's what's important. There's nothing new here, folks. This has happened every single 90 days, okay? However, way back in December, Costa Rica kind of drew a line in the sand.
December 20...
I can't remember when in December, but in December 2020, Costa Rica said, okay, that's enough of the extensions. They had been given all of the people who were just, a lot of people got stuck on vacation, but there's always been thousands upon thousands of perpetual tourists, okay? And so people are like, well, I'll just, do a border run every 90 days. But Costa Rica, when you step into their shoes, are like, if you love Costa Rica, why not become a resident? Well, we can go back and forth on the pros and cons, and we just might do that today. However, Costa Rica says become an official resident, okay? And then you won't have to leave. Well, anyway, long story short, there's a lot of people that are just extremely upset because in December, Costa Rica drew a line in the sand. They said, come March 2nd, you have to leave. There's no if, ands, and buts about it. If you're not a resident, if you're not a temporary resident, you're gonna have to leave, okay? Now, we're going to talk about why, but why has that been such a huge problem for so many people, Rebecca?
Right, so it's been a problem, even though it's something that's been going on forever, that you have to leave once your tourist visa is up. If you were here on a tourist visa and got stuck because of the pandemic, they didn't ask you to leave. They kept, suspending.
They kept extending that tourist visa.
Suspending the requirement and extending your tourist visa automatically. However, in November, they opened the airports, opened the borders so that people could come and go. New visitors could come into Costa Rica and you could leave Costa Rica if you needed to. So that's what began, the borders being opened. That's what began in December for them to say, okay, 90 days out, everybody's starting from right here, 90 days out, everybody is going to have to leave who is on a tourist visa. And they even said if your tourist visa was for less than 90 days, they said you can get it extended up to 90 days. So that was great. However, what caused all the panic leading up to
March
2nd, which is in 2 days, is that the land borders were not open. Okay, so that means the borders of Panama in the north border, Nicaragua, and the southern border of Panama are still closed. That caused a problem for the perpetual tourist because a lot of them, us included, were used to just going across the border to Panama or Nicaragua.
It was just making
not a big deal, not very expensive, exit tax, the cost if you bring your car across, but pretty much it was an easy process. So, myself included, we thought, well, being that the land borders are not open, I think, they're saying they're drawing the line in the sand, but we all had hoped that because the land borders weren't open yet, that they were going to extend it one more month, and then maybe a second month. And that didn't happen. About 2 weeks ago, we started seeing articles that said, hey you guys, you perpetual tourists out there, this is no joke. You're waiting around to see if it's going to extend, but don't count on that. We don't think that it's going to extend. So everybody kind of got into a panic. Okay, we're going to have to fly out. We're going to have to get tickets. What about the COVID test? That was another issue that causes, that's another issue because everyone who has a return country, a home country that requires the COVID test would now have to not only get plane tickets in a short period of time, but they would also have to get a COVID test. So that caused a little bit of panic, as you can imagine. We thought that Alan wouldn't have to leave because he went back to the States a couple of months ago when he got his computer and stuff. But I would have to leave on March 2nd. That would have meant flying out. Now, the United States was requiring a COVID test before entering, but some countries like Mexico and let's see, what was the other country? I just remember Mexico, but there was a list of countries, and it wasn't that many, but there were a few countries that you could fly out to that did not require the COVID test. And, you know, not only was it a, like, I guess, something that you had to quickly do, not that you didn't have notice. You know, they said back in December that this would happen, but like I said, everybody was hoping. So not only did you have to quickly get tickets, but you had to quickly try to find out where to get the COVID test, and then the cost of the whole thing. The closer you wait on tickets to buy your ticket, the more expensive the ticket is. And then the price of the COVID test was ranging around $100. Although with my research, I found some for $49.
Okay, now before I go much further here, you're finding out why it's such an issue. Now, before I go further, gotta apologize for the wind. I have tried to muffle the wind. Please let me know, is it much better now that I've tried to muffle the wind? I've got kind of a windsock there, and I know it's a little bit windy, so I do apologize, but I have tried to muffle the wind, so I hope it's better. And just so you know, hey, put your questions in the chat box. However, as normal, if this is your first time here, we're going to stop this in about 30 minutes, and at 2:45 Eastern Standard Time, we will shut it down and we will start again promptly, and we'll take as much time as needed to answer every question that you have given us. So if you put questions in, hey, go ahead and put them in so that we know, but you should be automatically ready for the next Q&A, which will be live and give us plenty of time. But I'm going to try to adjust this wind thing so our wind will be much better, okay?
Okay, they're saying that it's better when you're talking because you talk louder, so I will try to talk louder. But, you know, we got another location. Rudy was nice enough to let us set up a table. So there is less people noise, and there is great, you know, internet speeds. However, we have the wind today.
So I'm trying a little bit more to try to muffle that noise, so let me know. I think that's a little bit better, but I'm trying to muffle the noise, but
okay.
In time we'll get it figured out, okay?
Steven says it's better now. So, okay, I'll just try to speak up. But, so I hope you heard all of that. I kind of went on, but it was a big deal because we were hoping and kind of expecting that they really wouldn't require the perpetual tourists to leave until the land borders were open.
Well, everybody had expected. Costa Rica had been extending, and even though Costa Rica drew a line in the sand, everybody thought, they're just going to extend it again. They waited to the last minute, and bam, it didn't happen, okay? So,
yeah, and in Costa Rica's defense, they did say...
They did tell people in plenty of time, okay? But let's kind of go and talk about why they're doing what they're doing, okay? And obviously, I can only tell you, in my opinion, based on all the years of experience I have, why is Costa Rica forcing people out of the country now when they didn't before, okay? But before I do want to say thank you very much. I see that some people have already donated. You know, if you want to support us, you can. That's simply very easy to do by going down it to the chat box, and you're going to see a dollar sign there where you can actually click on the dollar sign and you can give any amount that you want. And we greatly appreciate it. And you know, and I'm always saying thank you very much for those people that do support us. But I also want to take a moment to say thank you very much for all those that have joined the forum and who become premium members of the forum, because they're paying $10 a month. That's 33 cents a day. And I greatly appreciate everybody. There's David right there, and I want to say thank you very much, David, who donated. That's you know, that's a super chat. But anyway, want to talk about that and thank you. So here's something you do need to know. Why is Costa Rica drawing a line in the sand? Why is it that they're forcing everybody out now? Well, it's important to understand that we tell everybody, if you're coming to Costa Rica, you do want to experience it. You know, in my opinion, you should be here for at least a year, in my opinion, so you can feel what the weather's like for a whole year and know what it's going to be at, try a couple of different areas, okay? However, you know, that means that you're going to have to be a perpetual tourist for at least a year. I don't think Costa Rica has a problem with that.
No,
Costa Rica has a
they don't.
problem with perpetual tourists that's been doing it 2 years and 3 years and 4 years and 5 years. And, well, there's perpetual tourists been doing it 10, 12, 20 years, okay? Now, you can simply stamp out, but Costa Rica wants you to become a resident. So, you know, there's still a lot of people who are stressing about March 2nd. Some people don't have to leave because they didn't come until later in that time frame. What you can do to keep from being forced to leave the country is you can call an attorney and you can say, I want to make an appointment with immigrations so that I can start my residency process. So if you have an attorney who's who does residencies, you can make an appointment. Once you make an appointment, then you don't have to leave, okay, because you've made that appointment, and then you can start your residency process. Keep in mind, don't make an appointment, don't back up the system if you don't want your residency process. I've already spoke to an attorney who said, yeah, we know there's some unethical people. They've backed up the system. Everything's backlogged. It's made it difficult for everybody. And for violating your stay and not becoming a resident, for violating your stay, overextending your visa, could cause you to be deported out of the country, and you won't be able to come back for 5 years if you have overstayed your visa. So it's important. Don't make an appointment and say, I changed my mind. You make an appointment, you get ready to start your registration to become a resident, start your resident procedure, okay? So you have no problem with actually making that appointment, get that appointment, then you don't have to leave, okay? But you gotta have proof of that.
Right, and since we had our residency process already in place, I wanted to make sure, I thought maybe I would have to leave first if the temporary residency was going to stand. But we contacted our attorney and he contacted immigrations and it was confirmed, yes, you have an appointment, your residency is in the process, so we could stay until I think they said till July, because even though you have temporary residency and you're not required to stamp out every 90 days, you still have to stamp out every 90 days to retain your driving privileges.
That's right. So it's really important. Once you start, just a second. Someone is saying that the sound is still a little muffled or a little bad, okay? Okay, so it's important to know that even if you do start the residency process, that residency process could take you an easy 2 years before you finally get approved. And it's important to note that while you don't have to leave, in that time frame, you cannot legally drive. So in order for you to actually legally drive, you must step out of the country, do a border run every single 90 days so that it renews your ability to drive, okay?
You want to address some of the things that are on the internet right now that are different, that we find in other different?
Like what?
Like that the fine and the fee for overstaying your residency. Your
now,
visa,
okay.
And the driving, that is just a fine.
Okay, so, at the moment, there's a lot of confusion that's out there, okay? And folks, I can only apologize for the wind. We are working on the lapel mics because they weren't working for some reason. So all I can do is apologize, and Rebecca's gonna do her best to speak up. So there's a lot of confusion. A couple of years ago, Costa Rica said, okay, these perpetual tourists are going in and out the country, and we want them to become residents. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a penalty in there. If you overstay, it's going to cost you $100 a month. So $100 a month, if you overstayed was it $100 a month. If you overstayed for 3 months, then you would have to pay $300. Well, guess what? A lot of the foreigners or gringos said, I don't care, and they would just pay that $300, okay? But Costa Rica is not getting any long-term benefit. So they have stopped that. And now if you chose not to pay the $100 a month penalty, then you were kind of not allowed to come back in the country for 3 times the amount you overstayed. So if you overstayed 3 months, then you couldn't come back for a total of 9 months, okay? If you chose not to pay the fine.
And that's
okay?
what common knowledge is. That's what, you know, everybody seems to be aware of. But what we were not aware of until recently, doing the research to do this video, is that Costa Rica has actually suspended the fine for overstaying your visa. It no longer is in play. So you, okay. So you can no longer just pay a fine or, you know, be expelled from Costa Rica for 3 times the amount of time that you overstayed your visa. That's not in play anymore. Now, if you overstay your visa, you have, they will begin the process of deportation. Only if you get caught, you know, but that's a big risk to take.
So let's talk about some of those risks, okay? So important, Costa Rica wants you to become a resident. And if you love Costa Rica, there's no reason why not to become a resident.
Right.
Yes, that process takes a while, okay? And yes, we recommend that you make sure that you have been here at least a year, or you know without a doubt that you're gonna stay here, okay? Then become a resident, because there's too many perpetual tourists who have come into the country and they bought businesses, they bought houses, and guess what? When they stamp out, there is no guarantee that they can get another 90 days. So in other words, let's say that you stamp out, you come back, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Don't think it's your right to come back into Costa Rica for another 90 days, okay? The law clearly states that the immigration person that's checking you in has the authority to say, you're a stinking pig, you're rude, you're ugly, you're gonna have to come back in 3 days, 1 day, or no days, okay? He can deport you at any moment, okay? So, we're a guest in the country, we're always very polite, we're always very nice, and that's what you wanna do. Now, we'll talk about different ways that you can get a resident, okay? But the important thing is that you want to start the process of becoming a resident so that you don't have to continue to do that 90-day thing. And when you do that 90-day stamp out so that you can drive, it's super, super easy, because you don't have to have plane tickets. Excuse me, you don't have to have proof of anything. All you got to do is show them this piece of paper, which we call the golden ticket, that shows that you are in the process of doing your residency, and so you can go in and out with ease. It makes it very, very easy, okay? However, you still need to stamp out if you drive. If you don't drive, it's not a problem, okay?
Right, so to come and stay for however long you want, however long it takes for you to decide if you want to become a resident, a year, 2 years. You know, Costa Rica doesn't have a problem with that on a temporary basis, but like Alan said, you know, some people have been doing it for 15, 20 years, and I guess the thing is, why wouldn't you want to become a resident? You know, it makes things a lot easier and a lot better for you, unless you haven't decided to stay.
Now,
and wait.
Go ahead.
And so in my opinion, I think Costa Rica is really lenient on the 90-day visa, you know, the perpetual tourist, but more recently, they've decided, well, maybe we need to be a little tougher. Doing away with just the $100 a month fee, and making things a little more difficult to continue to be that perpetual tourist, to motivate you to become a resident. So why would Costa Rica want you to become a resident? Why do they want that so bad? Is that where you were going?
Well, yes and no. So obviously we already said, yes, Costa Rica wants you to become a resident so that in the long run, once you're approved, and you don't have to pay CAHA until it's approved. What is CAHA? CAHA is the health insurance. So, you know, so let's talk about the CAHA real quick. What is the cost of CAHA? and we work extremely hard to try to give you accurate information. So if I make a mistake, which is hardly ever, because you all know that I'm never wrong. I thought I was wrong one time and I was only mistaken. Well, here's one of them cases where I was mistaken, okay? Where I said that Caja was 10% of your income. No, it's not. It's Caja is on a sliding scale. So the Caja,
With various factors.
that's right. So depending on the residency type you choose, depending on a couple of things, then your Caja could be anywhere from 4% of your stated income, or it could be as much as 12 to 15% of your stated income. The residency program that costs the most is the one that's called Residency, and that's for people like Rebecca and I who aren't retired and we continue to work, okay? But we'll talk about some of those. However, before we do, let me kind of backtrack. Why wouldn't you want to become a resident? Well, a lot of people don't want to become a resident because of the misconception that if they become a resident, they can't get their pension or their retirement check. No, you can. Nothing changes about your citizenship or your status in any country when you become a resident. It just says that you're legal, a resident. You have all these things like you can drive. You got lots and lots of benefits by being a resident. So a lot of the reasons people don't become a resident is that it is difficult, it is time consuming, and it does cost you a couple of $1,000s or more depending on who's doing it for you, okay?
And you can do it yourself, but it's not recommended.
It's not recommended. And some people simply, well, you have an FBI check, and some people just can't pass the FBI check for whatever reason, and so they don't become a resident. But there's many ways to become a resident, okay? So the only reason that you wouldn't want to become a resident is you can't pass the FBI check, or you simply don't want to give up $10, give up a percentage of your income to Caja. But the Caja is very important. So Costa Rica is tired and have always been tired of the perpetual tourists, because the perpetual tourists kind of backlogs all of the borders when they're stamping in and out. When they get sick, they go and they get health care, and then they say they can't pay for it, okay? And then now you're a burden to Costa Rican society. They don't want that. If you become a resident, well, now you're paying Caja, and your health care is free. And they have some pretty decent health care. It's probably not the same as what you might be used to in the United States, but you get free health care, which means you can get an open heart surgery for free, which most insurances wouldn't even cover in the United States, okay? So there's lots and lots of benefits by becoming a resident, but it does take a little bit of time, okay?
Yeah. And once you become a resident, you can also get your driver's license in Costa Rica. You know, when we first got here, we'd hear people say, oh, I don't worry about, being able to drive legally. If I get stopped, I'll just pay the fine. Well, we've discovered, thank God, not from personal experience, but just from reading, we've discovered that not only do they give you a fine, but they also take the license plate off of your vehicle. And so when you're talking to a Tico, they say, oh, it's not hard to get your plates back, don't worry about it. Well, it may not be difficult for a Tico to get their plates back, but imagine, legal. Yeah, because they're legal residents. Imagine someone who has lost their plates because they don't have legal driving privileges trying to get their plates back when they still don't have legal driving privileges. So in order to get your plates back, you would have to leave the country and return with, to have your driver's license legal again to drive in Costa Rica. Then go get your plates.
All right, now, I got to apologize for the wind. On our next session, we're going to move inside so that we won't have this wind problem. I do want to thank everybody who is donating. We greatly appreciate it, okay? And once we start the next session at 2:45 Eastern Standard Time, we're going to move inside so that we won't have a problem with the wind, okay? We had no idea it was going to be this much problem, okay? But we wanted to give you a different area with good stuff, okay? So anyway.
And also, a lot of people are putting questions in the chat right now, but we're not able to read them and answer them right now.
And of course, as you're putting questions in the chat box, remember, we're going to answer all of your questions when we start the next live at 2:45 Eastern Standard Time, which is only a few minutes from now. So we're going to shut this down shortly. We'll recap real quick, but we'll answer your questions, okay? But it's really important that you understand and that you know why this is happening, okay? Costa Rica doesn't want perpetual tourists. Costa Rica wants you to become a resident so that they can get to Caja, which is going to help them, and it's going to release a burden on their society for the people that do get sick, especially with the COVID issue. More people have gotten sick, and they're using the medical facilities, so they want you to have hope. Because if you're sick and you don't have the health insurance, they're taking care of you anyway, and that's not right, okay? So, with that said, is there anything we want to talk about real quick before we move inside? Because, you know, the most important thing, if you don't become a resident and you're a perpetual tourist, at any time you can get deported out of the country for any minor offense, and then that means you're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your business, you're going to lose all of the stuff that you have here, and you don't want to take that chance, okay? So once you know that you like Costa Rica, go ahead and start the residency process, which makes life so much better for you. So with that said, is there anything else we need to cover before we shut this down?
I'd like to say, you know, it's not like they're out to get you or anything like that. You know, deportation rarely happens for things that are minor, you know, but there is the possibility. It's dependent on another person. And
Yeah.
so to leave maybe your pets and your house, even though you can come back even after you're deported, do you want to leave everything for that long?
Yeah, because you might get deported and then you might not be allowed to come back in. And if you're not allowed to come back in, who's going to take care of your pets? Who's going to take care of your house? And if you don't have someone taking care of your house, it's common knowledge that if you don't have a house sitter, within the roof of your house might be gone by the time you come back. So with that said, what I want to do is to give us plenty of time to reset up. Remember, we're going to answer all of your questions in the next live Q&A, but we're going to try to do that inside or in an area that doesn't have all of this wind issue, okay? So once again, we apologize. I do want a quick shout out and thank everyone that has donated and who has, you know, given to us. You know, it says a whole lot to us because we do a lot of work in order to support and to help you and give you accurate information. So I do want to say thank you very much. Apologize for the wind, but we're going to shut it down and be ready for our next live Q&A where we'll answer all of your questions, and we're going to focus on why Costa Rica is forcing everybody out. We want to focus on the different types of residency. We want to focus on what's actually happening. And then once we answer all of those questions, if you have other questions, hey, we're more than happy to answer anything and everything that we can give you a good, honest answer on. And if we don't know, we'll do the research so that we can give you that answer. All right, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, and we're going to see you in just a few minutes. It looks like it's about 15 minutes, a little under 15 minutes on the very next live. But before you leave, make sure that you take a moment to like the video, because there's over 125 people here, and there's only 17 likes, and those likes help us out a whole lot. So please take a moment, hit that like button right now. It makes a big difference to the YouTube algorithms that say that you value this information, and they push it out so that other people will see our content, see our information, and they can get the help that you're getting today. So thank you very much. Hit that like button.